Hello, everyone. I'm Nick Bradley.
And I'm EvilMog. Welcome to Not the Situation Room.
As some of you may have noticed, it's just the two of us. And it's been a while since we've run this show as a duo, but Dave is still fighting the flu and space is still preoccupied.
Hey, I just hope space brings me back something from the Shadow Realm. I hope their souvenirs are amazing.
You and me both. I hear they have cookies. So, according to recent reports, malicious calendar invites have gained in popularity. It's called ICS phishing, and it takes advantage of the calendar invite system to sneak by security measures. This is usually something that's blocked, so it's interesting that this is a method to sneak by.
Yeah, and I love how criminals are exploiting things that are taught in offensive security courses. I mean, usually a few years after they become well known, it just goes to show you threat actors don't always abuse entirely new techniques.
I love it being called new. I know it. I know this isn't new, but the irritating part about the whole thing is that it still screams of poor design, right? Because I mean, the reason this even works is because both Google and Microsoft just automatically accept and process these invites when they come in. So I didn't have to get you to click on anything. I just got to send you an invite. And so why does my calendar auto accept anything? That really just seems like a recipe for failure.
Well, and that's exactly it. I guarantee you, other major clients like Big Blue's Lotus Notes before we sold it off to HCL would have had the exact same activities. So Brett said he's going to have to go deal with that anymore. I thought of something though that's interesting about this. There's actually a technique where these ICS files can be used to extract hashes as well, in Windows environments if they're accepted. I was just reading about this just before we recorded this show. The attack workflow is you send an invite, user clicks on it or auto processes, it will send an NTLM challenge hash if you challenge the reply, if you embed like an HTTP link in there. And the client will automatically send you an NTLM hash depending on browser configuration that you can then use for other purposes. So in addition to just being annoying and spamming, you can use it for credential extraction.
I imagine if you can get someone's machine to auto run something, you can do just about anything. But
Yeah.
it looks like the way to mitigate this, because that's what I was looking for immediately, is like, okay, how do I stop this? How do I stop this crap from happening? And so it really looks like the way to stop it is to block the automatic invitations accept. And I think in the corporate world, it has to be done. I think that has to be done maybe at the admin level. I haven't had a chance to check to see if you could do it at client level, but I did take time to check my own Google Calendar settings because that I don't need to check with an admin on. That's my own personal Google Calendar and you can fix it there. There is a setting there. And honestly, the setting should be default this way, but I have mine set to only add invitations that I accept, or as it says, what I respond to it via the email, right? So, normally in your calendars, you get an invite, you look at it, if you want to accept, tentative, decline, any of that. So it doesn't do anything with it until you do that. But the default looks like it was, what was it? Only if the sender is known. So I guess it checks your address book before it does any auto processing. I guess that's a little bit better than the from anyone option.
Well, and that's the thing. It's we're all talking about how things are set by default. Things are set for maximum interoperability, which is where the root of all security problems come from. Is legacy is the mother of breaches, right? See the corporate world.
Usability first, security later.
Well, that's exactly it. Look, I'm just glad this doesn't have some fancy name like quishing or smishing or any other ishings that the social engineers have had. Do you know how hard it is trying to talk about social engineering with a straight face in front of CISOs?
Well, it did get a cool name though. That's the thing. I want to say enough about this, but you mentioned the name thing, but first off, like I said, I know full well that we've read about this before, so this malicious calendar invite thing isn't new. Maybe there's new techniques around it, but the process itself isn't new. What is new, really, though, is it does have a catchy name. It's called ICS phishing. And I guess, like you said, it's not smishing, squishing, quishing, or whatever. So it's at least two different words, but that's what made it popular again, I guess. But earlier today, we were looking for topics, and you mentioned something about Twitter or X. and how they they messed up YubiKey migrations.
YubiKey, that was a
Oh,
typo. My apologies.
what? Well, I don't even know what it is. So there you go. I
Oh
figured it
yes.
was something to do with passkeys, but you tell us what it's all about.
Yeah, so what happened was is there's these hardware security keys called YubiKeys. And passkeys in general are tied to a domain name like x.com or as I still prefer it, twitter.com. Well, someone really likes the X name and is trying to get away from the usage of Twitter. And so, in order to decommission the twitter.com domain name, they started migrating passkeys. Turns out they fired too many of their security engineers and messed up the migration components. So, what will happen was it signed everybody out of Twitter. Both my accounts on my personal and my work got signed out, and we're stuck in this enrollment loop saying, please re enroll your YubiKeys.
Well,
And I didn't have any attached, it was just one password.
well, apparently my two-factor still works because my in my two-factor app for the or the authenticator app, I should say, it still calls it Twitter, even though it's X. But I've been on today and didn't have to re-authenticate, so either it didn't affect me or it hasn't affected me yet.
Yeah, oddly enough, the lower security ones, such as the Google Authenticator or the TOTP as they're called, all worked fine. But if anybody had a pass key, they had to back out the code change, and then you had to go submit in some support tickets to Twitter to get your accounts in because it would trigger the you've signed in too many times and failed, or you signed in with a different device and failed. And
No
because they
login for
laid
you,
off
locked out.
Exactly. And because they laid off 90% of the support staff, there's a 3 to 4 hour wait to go get online. Yeah, who'd have thought changing from X or Twitter.com to X.com was, it could be this hard. It's not just a logo change from the X11 logo that everyone's been stealing.
Oh, so the funny part about that is I do feel a little weird sharing my screen sometimes, or when somebody walks in to talk to me and it's not what's up, but it's one of the tabs on my browser and there's just an X on it. It's, it's but just it's weird, right? Because before this change, anytime I saw an X on something on the internet, I assumed it would be followed by two more X's, you know?
Right? And that's what throws me off too is the whole change brought another unintended consequence we may not have talked about. Say somebody imports their personal Chrome profile into a work PC and they type X and it might go to something else via autocomplete that might not be safe for work. I'm sure people have been fired over this.
Yeah. No idea what you're talking about. I would never do that.
No, never, never, ever, ever.
No, but I do. I swear I've had people walk. I was like, I promise that X is that's Twitter, man. That's Twitter. That's all it is.
Right. Especially in our world where you have to be on comms because Twitter/X is a great source for threat intel or
It actually is.
cybersecurity news, right?
That or it's just entertaining if you ever want to feel better about yourself, so you can see how much worse things are for other people.
Right, exactly. Or if you feel the need to be corrected, just post something blatantly wrong and we'll do the homework for you. It's better than Chat
Or
GPT,
blatantly correct, and they'll still prove you wrong somehow.
right?
Oh man. So is there anything else you wanted to talk about today?
Well, not really because US East 1 is still up, so I'm out of cybersecurity news for the day.
Bro, you just jinxed it.
Whatever, I host in US East too.
Oh, as well you should. Oh, there was something else. Are you on the bandwagon of those freaking out over the possibility of CISA going away?
I mean, being Canadian, I'm not necessarily freaking out because that means we have an opportunity. We have the
CISA
Communication
who,
Security
eh?
Establishment, right? We call it CSE, Communication
Yep.
Security Establishment. They have the Canadian Center for Cybersecurity. They could just take over the whole mandate because trying to get US politicians to agree that the sky is blue is going to be harder than getting funding for CISA.
You are not wrong. And I did have to remember that it was different groups when I was up there hanging out for some other events that we were part of. But are we sure they're actually going away? I mean, that's the thing, right? The act that created them expired, and for those that don't know what I'm talking about, I'm referring to the Cybersecurity Information Sharing Act, which created the group that many of us refer to as CISA. And not to trash talk, even though sometimes I just like to troll. They do a lot with critical infrastructure vulnerability notifications. They do manage the KEV or the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog. And I know a lot of people that use that. So the act could be renewed.
And the right once in a while, they did predict the ICS phishing vulnerabilities back in December of 2024.
They did. So, see, I told you it wasn't new.
No, I mean, I'm hoping funding gets brought back. I mean, winding down a department is a lot harder than just pulling its funding. I mean, they'll beg, borrow, steal, get
Sure.
possibly some private donations. I mean, it's too big to fail, but who knows? It could just fail.
Well, see, that's quitter talk. That's pessimist talk. And I'm going to be a realist and still say you're probably right.
Yeah, that's the problem. You do this long enough, you become basically a pessimist. But that's just experience biting us.
You see, I was going to mention that. I said, you and I have been around long enough, and our cumulative experience in this space is that you know what? I'm just going to go with Space Rogue's advice that you shared last week and only talk about the past and the future. So I'm going to say that they did fill a void when it comes to information sharing, and I do hope they find a way to continue. And that's all I've got to say about that.
Well, hey, I'm just glad Space Rogue's advice is coming back in. So even if he can't be here, we can still, pass on his words of wisdom to our viewers. So thank you for that.
I guess we'll just have to wait and see. And that's me talking about the future.
Yeah, and I think that's a wrap, honestly.
Yeah, man, I agree. I'm sure we could find other things to talk about, but then we're going to just keep going because we could probably talk for the rest of the day. So, on that note, I do hope everybody enjoyed today's episode. Like, follow, share, subscribe, leave us a comment, and
We'll see you next time.